Hey everyone, thanks for joining me again today. Today we're working on a lemur habitat, but it's a little bit different. Normally, I would aim for something a bit more fitting to their location and natural environment, but this time I wanted to recreate an enclosure I made when I was first starting to play Planet Zoo and just learning the features the game had. I originally built a Lemur Temple, and I was so proud of it I shared it everywhere I could, and I had a lot of positive comments on it and a lot of great feedback. And I wanted to recreate it now that I had a bit more experience in the game, and I'm a little bit more comfortable with the tools and even the new features that have come out since then. The first enclosure was simple and plain with a focus on a small broken down temple on the top of a hill. The foliage was all tall and bearing down over the temple, and while it did a great job of making the temple look like it was lost to nature, it also made some empty airspace and floor space where there just wasn't much to look at. Here, I wanted to create different levels of things to look at, where the visuals are scattered about so when you look to one spot or another, it has more depth to it. It felt like the temple was at one point larger and taller, and that the trees had been slow to creep in to take over. The idea was that this was an authentic place the zoo had decided to clean up and incorporate into their habitats was something that I wanted the viewers, in this case us and not the NPC guests, to be able to imagine. I also added in slight details that looked like the zoo could have added later or recovered over time from lootings before they owned the land. You'll see this added in closer to the end of the video as I returned a day later with the idea. When I began building this, I was disappointed that I couldn't manipulate the floor pieces in the same way we can with single pieces. There was no way to sink them into the ground or tilt them just a little to look fallen, so I ended up in a lot of spots using single pieces in various ways and positions to imitate the idea of parts having fallen away or given way under the weight of time. The walls are easier to do this with, as whole pieces of the walls for this theme actually come partially destroyed, so I only had to add in smaller pieces of those having come down. I found myself wanting to expand the temple more and more, and bring in bigger and more involved details. Originally, my idea was to have this grand, sprawling, working temple that was only a little bit broken down and the guests and lemurs would move through. And perhaps in the future I will build this for something else. But in this scenario, I wanted to stay more true to the original enclosure so I could compare them more accurately. It would be unfair to spend days building a highly detailed piece like that and try to compare it to a piece I did when I didn't understand how the game or the mechanics worked. When I get to the foliage, like I previously mentioned, I wanted it to look like the trees are slow to move in and obscure it, so it has a lot of smaller foliage, while also trying to maintain the feeling that the keepers are trying to keep nature at bay. I did drop a lot of larger and bushier trees just out the back of the enclosure, so that as you look from the front, it has a dense, distant forest feeling to it. The lemurs thankfully love a whole lot of vegetation, however, the guests don't seem to share the same mindset. I noticed a lot of them complaining that the enclosure had too much. Sucks to be an NPC, I guess. In both closures, I wanted the lemurs to be able to climb and interact with the temple pieces, and in some spots, I had to get imaginative to how to give them pieces to climb and jump to. Some vines and leaning pieces of architecture seemed to do the trick, and I decided to place some columns down as if the zoo had reinforced the crumbling structures in place. I'm not too sold on the idea though, so I may go back and adjust it a bit more. Feel free to drop some ideas on it down below. When I came back a day later to add some final touches, I also added torches and spotlights to showcase the build at nighttime, and I think they added some really good variation to the build, having the modern style lights for showing the temple and the ancient stylized torches to provide generic lighting for the whole thing. I think I could have brought more of the complex shapes and details to the back of the build, but up until I put a path back there to redirect some guests, I was entertaining the idea of putting in a small pond for the lemurs. I plan on filling out the empty space in front of the enclosure between the crocodiles, but didn't get to it just yet. Still not sure if I'm going to add another enclosure around the monorail in front or not. Maybe some tortoises in a horseshoe-shaped habitat around the queue for it. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed our time together, and I hope you join me in the next video. Thank you for watching.